Good morning. I apologize, I'm late. I will try to go through this fast today. So we'll talk a little bit about some parallels between the Super Bowl and marketing and performance. So first, marketing. What did you guys think about those ads? Yeah, I've heard that. Terrible has been the response. But when you look at themes in those ads and when you look at the money that was spent, then it does cause us to look at them and kind of dissect them a little bit further. So the first thing, the two things that come to mind when I think of the ads, the campaigns this year is heartwarming and nostalgia. So some of the commercials that you'd see, they would reference memories of the past, they would reference things of the past, and that's speaking to the demographic that's watching the Super Bowl. Family, friends, and the memories that you create is something that is important in marketing. And something that tugs on your heart, the Budweiser commercial was probably the one that received the most buzz this year. And what were some components of that commercial? Why do you think it created the most buzz?
Everybody's heartstrings.
Right, it was heartwarming. So, and I think something else that it did is it told a story. So in just a few seconds, it was able to convey a story that was able to tug on your heart. So I want you guys to think about that with your own marketing, with the people that you present to on your listing appointments and people that you present to on your buyer appointments and your sphere of influence that you touch base with monthly. How is it that you can convey and weave into your conversation stories? What we always talk about, if you tell a story, then people will remember that more. It makes more of an impact. And then number two, how can you tug on their heartstrings a bit? So memories, like I said, of the past with family and friends sometimes. And then also, are you stirring an emotional element when you present to them? And compliments are one of the ways to do that. So think about that in your presentations, and it's, as we know, it's kind of a rule to create rapport too. So one of the easiest ways to create rapport is through a compliment when you first see someone. A friend of mine and his frontline staff, he has a retail business, and one of the things that he does is that he requires his frontline staff to give a compliment to every person that walks in that door. And I've always thought that's really, it says a lot. When I think of one of my favorite lunch places, the hostess, she always has a compliment every time I walk in that door. And of course, it makes me remember that hostess. It even makes me feel guilty if I can't remember her name. So think about how powerful that is and how powerful that is with your own marketing and your sphere of influence that you're talking to on a monthly basis. And then think about, well, what compliments or what areas could I talk about with my sphere of influence or with my contacts that they would remember or that would pull on their heart? Well, this is where Dale Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, always resonates with me, is that the Ford principles: family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. If you keep the conversations around those four topics, the Ford principles, then usually you can find a way to tug on someone's heart. So something else that we probably don't talk about enough are handwritten note cards. Why do you think handwritten note cards are so powerful? It's because it shows that you care. It shows that you went out of your way. You made almost like a mini sacrifice to convey your thoughts through that handwritten note card. It took your time. And I think this is a point that, if there's no other point I make on this call today, is how is it that you're conveying on a daily basis in your consistent routine through making your contacts in your KDNA something that is a sacrifice from you to that consumer, whether it's a buyer presentation, a listing presentation, someone in your sphere of influence. But are you calling them just when you're thinking about a real estate commission, you're thinking about closing a sale? Are you calling them just when you're thinking about your bottom line? Or are you calling them to keep in touch because you want to hear about Billy's soccer game? Are you calling them because you want to make sure that everything got moved in fine with the house and the move was smooth? Are you calling them to check on that job promotion that Mike was expecting last week? Or, how is it that your conversation is a sacrifice from you to that consumer that tugs on their heart? Because that will tug on their heart. So a personal notice or interest is something that means a lot to them. And this is, again, where the 4 principle comes in place. Family usually is the most important to people, their friends, their work, and then their dreams, things that people aspire to. So when you study luxury marketing, then it's one of the things that you see in luxury retail a lot is it's called aspirational marketing. So in the luxury business, you are marketing to someone's aspirations. So in a retail consumer and retail, there's a lot of things in real estate that we learn from the retail and the hospitality markets. That's why I study these things. And someone that's shopping at Walmart is a different shopper than someone that's shopping at Gucci. An aspirational shopper is at Gucci versus someone that's necessities and the things they have to have in their daily life at Walmart. So think about that in your demographic. Are you speaking to an aspirational demographic or more of a needs basis demographic where they have to have these certain things? So identifying their passions, what is it that makes them tick? A phrase that I've heard from some realtors that I'm in a mastermind group with is they'll talk about what is it that makes your heart sing? And sometimes they'll start off a conversation or they will they'll talk about a topic based on how it makes their heart sing. So that's something that I would make it a mission with all of your people in your sphere of influence that are in your circle of friends is really not just knowing, being aware of what makes their heart sing, but how are you engaging and talking with them about that in a way that they can feel your concern and they feel your care. Whether it's yoga, whether it's spin class, whether it's their kids, whether it's their continuing education or some hours they've been working on furthering their career, but thinking about that, what is it that's at the top of their mind and it's important to them. So something else, just a quick email or a quick point that I do occasionally, and when people do this to me, it makes me feel good, and it could be just a simple email that says, I'm just thinking of you. And that's where note cards, when you put that in a note card, I was just thinking about you, and I just want to drop a line and say hello. I hope everything's well with the kids and you had a great holiday or whatever. It doesn't have to be more than 2 sentences. It can be very, very, usually the more concise and the more quick it is, then many times the more of an impact it's going to make. So don't overthink this stuff. Keep it that simple to where, am I conveying that they took up a thought, they took up space in my mind? And I think that's something that as human beings and just as human nature, if we know that someone else took up space in our minds or vice versa, they know that, that I thought about them last week, and I just wanted to convey that thought. You've been on my mind. I just thought about you, and I wanted to let you know. Something as simple as that can go a long ways. So think about that and think about how you could work that into your consistent daily routine, because that's where it starts paying dividends, is when you're consistent with these thoughts and work this into your daily behavior in your KDNA. So now let's talk about performance. So performance, this is on the other end of the spectrum, not the touchy-feely marketing part, because marketing, as we saw yesterday in the Super Bowl, it was very much about touchy-feely and the way you make someone feel. Performance, this is the bottom line. This is kind of Logan speak when it comes to me being such a now analytical mind. So I can relate to this a lot. But think about this: how many practice hours were required for those people to perform at the level that they did yesterday? And that's something that, as realtors, it's up to you. You are your small business owner. You are in control of your destiny. You are the one that's responsible for your income and bettering yourself and creating the life for you that you want. And that's the beautiful thing about real estate, is that it's all in your hands. It's all within your control. And it goes back to the first metric on that KDNA, which is practice. We have to be in class, and we have to better ourselves, and how much time are we spending each week on our practice and our game. And so that way we have flawless buyer presentations, flawless listing presentations. You know, how many times do you think those quarterbacks yesterday practiced a throw? Every single week, practicing a simple throw, because that's what it takes, that consistency and that practice to perform at the level that they did yesterday. So when you're on your listing presentations, are you performing at that level? You know, one of the things that was motivating for me when I was first involved in coaching programs was quantifying that listing presentation, that 1 hour, based on my annual income. What was that 1 hour worth? You know, my income goal was $1 million a year. So $460 an hour is what I need to be performing. And I knew my highest and best use was in front of that seller on a listing appointment. So what are you doing to practice for that game? That's your game. That's when you're on stage, just like an actor's rehearsing their lines, or just like a quarterback is practicing their throws. That listing presentation and knowing your value proposition, knowing the right questions to ask, knowing how to create engagement with that buyer, with that seller, is what sets you apart from everyone else. So there's a lot of mediocrity in this business. It's one of the things that I've always it's repulsive to me in the business, how much real estate, it just breeds mediocrity, because with salespeople, so many times they'll close one transaction, not work for a couple months, or they really, a lot of salespeople will lower, will not really aspire to be better than what they are. They get by with the status quo. And that's where it's one of the things that's important to me to convey in our weekly calls, is that you guys are better than that. If you're always focused on your KDNA metrics and focused on improving yourselves on a weekly basis, and then measuring that improvement on a weekly basis, then you'll be top performers. But it's all up to you as whether you choose to do that or not. So think about your income goal. $250,000 a year in gross commission income equals about $120 an hour. So are you applying at least 40 hours a week, and are you performing at $120 an hour every one of those hours during the 40 hours of the week? That requires practice, that requires training, that requires role play, that requires knowing your value proposition, it requires presentations, it requires buyer presentations, listing presentations. It requires marketing pieces that are going to create a call to action. They're going to create a response, knowing your geographic market and knowing that geofarm. So are you practicing in all of those areas to better yourself? Okay, so with that being said, let's get on to our KDNA. Amanda attended the investor conference, and her big takeaway was a session on fix and flip. So when doing construction, she includes 3 wow factors, which will help sell the property faster at a higher price for fix and flip investors. So I think that's a great testimonial to knowing your value proposition. Knowing how to sell a property, explaining the benefits of that property is really important in your marketing. So think about those things. Barbara Chapin made a lot of calls to her sphere of influence last week and picked up a buyer referral. So great job. Kudos to you, Barbara, on making those contacts. Nina contacted 20 people who had previously inquired about one of her listings and picked up one of the buyers, and she's getting them qualified now. Jill, her sphere of influence listing lead clients are relocating to Iowa. So good job on working that sphere of influence. Sarah Jones, she picked up a listing, sounds like a listing at an estate sale. So estate sales are great ways to engage with the community and find out, you know, what's going on with that house. So good job, Sarah. Tammy, 2 listings under contract, one set to close on February 9th, another one on the 27th, and picked up a buyer referral from involvement in her daughter's school. She's very involved in school and serves as a room mother. So the more involved you are in the community, and schools, as we know, is a big part of the community, then that creates more touch points. And what do touch points create? Contacts. So think about that. There's nothing more valuable than those face-to-face contacts, and that's where that contributes to your number 5 on the KDNA. So think about that every week in regards to your contacts. And the more face-to-face interaction, the better. Also picked up 2 buyer referrals offers made, and she's working contracts on those. So good job, Tammy. Okay, so our KDNA, I'm looking at our KDNA tracker, and it looks like Wes was our top agent last week in KDNA, closed over $10,000 in commissions last week. Good job, Wes. And it looks like had spent about 10 hours previewing property, and also had 2 pre-listing appointments, and 2 of those appointments were held, and then also took 3 listings. So it was probably a previous appointment he was working on, and also put 2 properties under contract. Great job. Kathy Crow had 68 new contacts last week and put out 200 marketing pieces or flyers to create a response, and also spent 9 hours previewing. And it looks like Kathy had 3 listing appointments that were held last week. So good job, Kathy. And then it looks like Tammy, 45 new contacts last week and had a closing. Reginald, 60 contacts last week. Fantastic. So we know it's your number of hours that are prospecting and your number of contacts a week is what are going to be extremely important in improving your efficiency and improving your conversion. And of course, the more training, the more practice you have, then the better lead conversion you'll have as well. And one of the things that's sometimes tough when we're looking at numbers so close is where these leads are coming from and the percent that are conversion. So generally, the more leads you have a week that are coming in, or the more contacts that you have that you're making, a lot of times your conversion rate won't be as high versus just if you have 5 contacts a week, but they're all personal referrals from friends. Those conversion rates will be extremely high when they're personal referrals. So we know personal referrals are always the strongest, most profitable, and that's where kind of the first 5 minutes of my talk today really relates to how to create those personal referrals. It's for creating those connections, and those connections is what will generate referrals when people know that you care. So think about that. Expired listings for sale by owners, a great way to look at those. Those help your numbers, and that really is important to, so that way Richard and I can review and discuss this on a weekly basis on how well you're doing on your coaching, because for sale by owners and expireds is what it's part of practicing in the game. That is what makes you really, really good. So that way you can perform better for those personal referrals that come from your sphere of influence. They're really, really profitable business. But you've got to get out there and practice, practice, practice. And for sale by owners and expireds are some of the best possible practice you can have. I was talking with Wes a couple weeks ago, and I think Nina, about for sale by owners, and they were telling me some of the challenges that they're having. And you have to be really, really good on expireds and for sale by owners, but you learn so much. And Wes and Nina were both saying that, how much they've learned from working with these for sale by owners. A lot of you guys that are working expired listings, I think you'll probably agree that you learn so much from working on for sale by owners and expired listings. Okay, guys, it looks like Claudia also had a great week last week. 25 new contacts, 8 hours previewing, 100 flyers out, also closed a deal, took a listing, very productive. Rose and Jesse, had 125 flyers or postcards that were out, 15 new contacts. Barbara, great job. Rupal, doing great. Rupal has been consistently improving and also spending time on her training and script practice and role play. That's good. That's that consistent weekly improvement is what leads to a superstar performer. Jill, 55 new contacts. Fantastic. Let me know where those contacts coming from. What are you telling them? How are these your sphere of influence? The more I know weekly on what your wins are and where your results are coming from, then that helps us. The more we can share with the other agents. Corey, 22 new contacts and also closed transactions. So good job, guys. This has been a very productive for the brokerage, a very good January, which is unusual. January is usually one of the slower months in the business. So this, I think, speaks to the interest rate environment that we're in and also the spring market that we're going to see. I think we're going to see a fantastic, amazing spring market. And it's all up to you guys on how much of that you capture for yourself and your own business. So please, I have 2 requests of you this next week is make sure that you're honest with your numbers. And the KDNA value is only as good as what you put in it. So it's really hard for Richard, when him and I meet each week to go over your coaching results, if you don't know where your buyer appointments come from, or if you don't know where your contacts, who you're talking to. We've got to have really concise answers, so that way we can help you. If you can't answer the questions on that, then it is hard for us to, what marketing pieces you're putting out. If you're putting out 400, 500 pieces a week, you want to know what you're putting out, so that way we can see it. And if it's not working, which some are not, then we want to know, we want to see it, so that way we can critique it and we can refine it and match it with some things that are working, that are effective. So that's real important on your weekly coaching calls with Richard. And then the other request I have is to also email myself and Richard the things that I went over with, which a lot of you guys are doing this weekly on your coaching calls with Richard, but letting us know what wins you're having on the KDNA and through the cost versus value. So that cost versus value sheet that you have that explains all the different tools, the Rebo Gateway, the conversion. There's so many different systems and US People Search and so many things that we prescribe and that we pay for on a monthly basis for you guys. I want to hear about how you're using that and how that's working for you, so that way we can pass it along in our weekly calls. So with that being said, I'll let you get to work and have a productive, fantastic week. Thank you so much. Oh, Brian, do you have anything to add before we head out?
Not much, guys. There was an update to the USDA rural area this week. Probably won't really affect Texas too much, but I'll send the link in the bottom of the email. The USDA rates are ridiculous. I just did a 3.375 with 100% financing. Basically outside of 380 is what you're thinking about. But the link will be in there to look it up today.
Great, thank you. And Rupal and Claudia, thank you for being here. Do you guys have anything to add as far as wins that last week that worked well for you?
I just wanted to touch on what you said. I think it's really important. I'm glad that you kind of covered that about just really connecting with your buyers or sellers, not so much on a business level. That's very important too, but also just really being in tune with what's going on in their family, big events. Like I was invited to a baby shower by one of my number one referral partner. And she really wanted me to be there, but I couldn't be there because I was in Houston with my daughter. But you get, if you want to build a business on referrals, and that's really what my business is built on, you really got to stay connected and in tune. So I'm glad that you covered that, because that is really important.
Thank you for that feedback. So Claudia, for you guys, if you didn't hear that, what she said was staying connected and kind of echoing what I said at the beginning of the call about staying connected with your client base. And she mentioned a baby shower that she had to miss. She was out of town. And those are opportunities to stay connected. And when I look back and I think of birthday parties, and I think of baby showers, and I think of wedding receptions, and I think of these family events and the events that create the connectedness that we have as human beings, then that is where a lot of your business, a lot of your most profitable business will come from. So how good of a job, if you rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 5, how good of a job are you doing staying connected with your sphere of influence and building those connections? So something else, Steven Schwartzman, he's probably one of the top hedge fund managers on Wall Street. And Steven Schwartzman, in an interview a few weeks ago, he said that he does not even look at someone's resume if they're 40 years or older. He said, someone by the age of 40, you've pretty much solidified your reputation and who you are as a person. But when you're younger than that, then he looks at resumes. The reason I repeat that and that I say that is because it goes to show how important that staying connected with people is and the reputation that you build. So thank you for your participation this week, and have a fantastic, productive week.